So, last night was the blood moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, and I've been thinking a lot about the body, not just physically, but spiritually and politically. I wrote a Substack last week called What If God Were Closer to Your Body Than You Were Taught? Pleasure, God, and the Politics of Being Visible. So I wrote this after going to a Black queer pleasure-centered event a couple weeks ago. And actually, I had gone to another event by the same organization a couple months prior to that, but I left early and I was overwhelmed. So this time I stayed and I was curious instead of scared. Something has shifted in me over the past couple of months as I've been unpacking faith and pleasure and visibility, and honestly, what it means to return to yourself. So I'm gonna read that essay, and I want to talk through some of the other things that I've been thinking about in this season. So again, it's called What If God is Closer to Your Body Than You Were Originally Taught? Pleasure, God, and the Politics of Being Visible. If you've been watching the Delano Show for a while, you'll remember last July's episode. Black queer erotic film screening. Me spiraling internally, inner church girl clutching pearls that don't even belong to her. I left early, overstimulated, curious, slightly judgmental, deeply unsettled. At the time that I wrote that, it was about how freedom scared me, how pleasure, when it's embodied and unapologetic, exposed parts of me that were still shaped by purity culture and fear. Fast forward to now, February, Lunar New Year, audacity and embodiment are my words. Same organization, different event, free, parentheses K, so free / week, Friday. The venue, the same one that I produced Continuum. That part felt symbolic, whether it needed to be or not. The invitation said, come in a fit that embodies your freedom and liberation. Keep vibes high, come curious. I did. I wore leather. I felt sexy. Not performative sexy, grounded sexy. My body felt like mine. The room was full of Black queer people across generations. Gray locks and fresh fades, gunkles, uncties, and 20-somethings. Lovers, educators, performers. There was a community altar. There were conversations around power dynamics and sexual health. There was poetry, food, vendors, and laughter that felt like release. And I felt God. I know how that sounds. I grew up at purity conferences. I had a signed pledge, purity pledge, framed in my childhood bedroom. I'm pretty sure it shattered, actually. How fitting. I was explicitly taught that the flesh is deceitful and that desire is dangerous, that queerness is rebellion, and pleasure isn't just a slippery slope, it's a direct flight to hell. But in that room, watching Black queer people inhabit themselves without apology, I felt something sacred, expansive, liberatory, the kind of holy that doesn't shrink you. There was a shibari performance that stayed with me. Two beautiful Black femme-presenting people, one suspended in rope, surrendering in front of a full audience. The trust, the vulnerability, the consent required for that, wow. Last July, I would have intellectualized it to death. But this time, I was just curious. What would it mean to trust my body that deeply? Why does surrender still scare me? What part of me still equates pleasure with danger? Earlier that week, I had also been to the State House, learning about bills actively being written to police queerness, to censor creativity, to regulate women's bodies, to restrict education. It was sobering and heavy. And then I walked into a room full of Black queer people building altars and feeding each other. Two realities, one trying to cage us, and one insisting on our expansion. At brunch that Sunday, they talked about impact and used the rock soup analogy. Everyone contributes what they can, so everyone eats. They feed people. They address sexual health and mental health. They build creative space. It felt like church in the way church was supposed to feel. I keep thinking about visibility, about being an embodied, visible Black woman and how that feels dangerous right now. The laws are very, very loud. Every day, there is a new attempt to legislate imagination out of existence. And yet, someone said at brunch, I think it was Jerry, now is not the time to hide. More than ever, we need to be visible. Jerry has been one of the cleanest, clearest mirrors in my life. We met in October 2023 when I was a junior in college. I asked him for coffee so that his organization could co-sponsor a small Queer History Month painting workshop I wanted to host. It was intimate, it was reflective, it was the earliest seeds of what would grow into Continuum. At the end of the coffee, I told him we were gonna be friends, and he laughed in my face. He literally laughed in my face. He tells this story all the time, and it's like, yeah, I just thought to myself, this little girl is crazy. But now, he literally calls me his little sister. Then in October 2024, he hosted the Holiness Project, an event centered on queerness and religion. That shifted something in me. October 2025, I produced Continuum at the same venue as Free Friday. There's a through line there, whether I planned it or not. After coming out to my parents in October 2022 and disappointing them in that way, something ruptured. I realized I had spent the first 18 years of my life wanting what I thought I was supposed to want. That rupture was the first time I felt free enough to actually dream. I wrote an essay called Dream as Protest because that's what it felt like. Dreaming felt like a rebellion. So pausing this essay, I actually, after coming out to my parents, that went terribly. That was the first time that I ever disappointed them. I grew up as the high achieving pinnacle of the perfect African child. I was in sports, I played the cello, I got straight A's, I did everything I was supposed to do. I got a full ride to a very nice school. They didn't have to pay school fees. I did everything I was supposed to do. But me coming out to them just really shook shit up. And that was the first time that I had to ask myself, who am I outside of others' expectations for me? I actually turned that essay into an art piece, which is hanging in the entryway of my apartment. Actually, I will show you. Why not? Show and tell. So I turned it into this art piece, And the little white lines are the essay. I also did this photo shoot where I intentionally wore wrapped fabric in the way that men traditionally do for like ceremonious occasions in Ghanaian culture. And it was supposed to be a reflection on me bridging my queerness and my Ghanaianness and feeling embodied in myself. Yeah, well, I want to just read the last line. I dream of photography studios with dark rooms developing pictures of wrinkled old church ladies, books with pages full of stories from multilingual Sunday dinners, and poems about Black queer love. I dream of a life full of creativity, community, and love. I dream of using my talents, my passions, my voice to capture the strength, beauty, and complexity of Blackness and queerness. I'm living that life now. I'm living that life right now. But back to the essay. Sorry for the detour. Yeah, so wrote that essay, Dream as Protest, because that's what it felt like. Dreaming was rebellion. Every October since then, something has expanded in me. Jerry left a respectable path with countless accolades to lead a Black queer organization in the South. It sounds biblical when you say it out loud. He is unafraid in a way I deeply admire. He sees himself in me, says that I'm further along than he was at my age. When someone sees you, baddie on the other end of the screen, do you believe them? Or do you minimize it because it feels too big? Sit with that question for a second. Because I have been sitting with that. I wrote that essay before I had any proof or evidence of the life that I would be living right now. Before I met Jerry, before I produced Continuum, before I had the community of people around me who see something in me in this way. But I knew, my past self knew that I'm about to get emotional. Let me come back. Let me come back to the essay. Let me finish it. Sometimes I joke that I feel like Jonah, running from my destiny. But if I'm honest, I'm not afraid my destiny is conservative Christianity and Jackie Hill Perryism. I'm afraid my destiny is scale. A fully integrated Black queer woman comfortable in her body, giving language to our collective lament, building spaces like Continuum beyond one city, being free in a world that desperately wants to cage us. That's what feels dangerous. Queer people haven't made me into something new. They've brought me back to myself. To a girl who always knew she was imaginative and strange and sensitive and powerful. To a woman who wants to experience her body as sacred, not suspect. That 21-year-old, I think I was 19 or 20, however old I was, girl who created this piece, knew that she was imaginative and powerful and all of these things, but I didn't even have the proof and evidence then. If someone sees something in you, do you believe them? Do you believe what you see in yourself? Are you scared of your own power. I stopped accepting crumbs from other people. Now I'm trying to stop giving crumbs to myself. A friend told me recently, you have to foreplay your day. You can't just rush into it detached and expect to feel alive. That has been my practice. Drinking warm water with apple cider vinegar and fire honey in the morning, dancing naked in the mirror and thanking my body, cooking meals that look like the rainbow, winding down before bed with candles lit, lights low, exotic love incense burning, Jill Scott on repeat, touching my own edges gently instead of policing them. Where are you still self-surveilling? What room have you been afraid to enter because it might stretch you? Who in your life feels like a mirror instead of a mask? What if pleasure is not indulgence, but resistance? What if God is not somewhere far away judging your body, but closer than you were ever allowed to believe? I'm still growing. I'm still negotiating my edges, still occasionally unsettled, but I stayed this time, and I felt sexy, and I felt holy, and I felt home with audacity and embodiment. Delano. So that piece, and just really this video is dedicated to MashUp, and it's dedicated to my brother, Jerry. At that brunch, it was announced that Jerry's the new CEO of MashUp, which feels honestly more like less like a career move, and more like destiny alignment. Watching someone choose freedom over respectability and then build something that literally feeds people in every sense of the word has changed me in unimaginable ways. MashUp is doing life-giving, body-affirming, imagination-expanding work in Nashville and beyond. Sexual health, mental health, creativity, intergenerational connection, community that feels like church in every sense of what church is meant to be. Also, MashUp partners with another organization called Heauxly, and they are actually the ones who spearheaded Free Friday and the event that I went to in October for their Pleasure MashUp weekend. Tap into both of them. I will link the Instagrams, the donate pages. If this essay moved you in any way, if you saw yourself reflected in my words in any way, please donate to them. Please support this life-giving work in Nashville and beyond. I can't speak highly enough of MashUp Heauxly House Jerry. I can't. Like this could be a multi-hour video of me just talking about all the ways that this organization and this person have helped me return to myself. I said a line in it: queer people have not made me into anything else. They have just brought me back to myself. I genuinely believe that Jerry is a destiny helper in my life. Someone who helped bring those words, I dream of a life of creativity, community, connection, that comments, brings glory to the experiences of Blackness and queerness. Jerry has helped me be that person. I would not be the person who is sitting here phone propped up talking to you people of the internet if it was not for Jerry, if it was not for MashUp, if it was not for God aligning my life in this way. In the essay, I said something about I feel like Jonah running from my destiny. I used to believe genuinely that my destiny was being a high achieving corporate Black woman, being a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, something that would fulfill the aspirations of my parents. You know, Africans love a doctor, lawyer, engineer. If you are a smart child, they tell you that those are your choices. To pick one and stick to it. I used to feel like me choosing this life that colors outside of the lines was me avoiding that destiny. But really, the destiny that I have been running from lately is embodiment. I feel like every time I doom scroll, and avoid painting or making a collage, or I go to an event instead of sitting at home and writing an essay, I am avoiding the inevitable destiny of being what I talked about. A person who honestly is like Jerry, is leaving respectability to create space for those who are on the underbelly of power, for queer people, for Black women, for black people in general, for people of color, the people who society feels are less than. It is my destiny to create space for them. My destiny is sitting with my feelings long enough to give language to our collective lament. My destiny is being that visible Black woman. And yes, it feels very dangerous right now. Like, they literally declared war on Iran this week. The Instagram, TikTok, all of those, they are surveilling us. I'm posting this on a Meta platform, but I cannot keep running. Every day, I get confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. The fact that I wrote and created that piece of art with no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So as uncomfortable as it is to sit in this chair and talk to my phone, I am going to continue to push myself to do so. Because there is a little Black girl somewhere on this planet who needs to see me, who needs to hear my words. There is somebody somewhere who needs to watch this video. And I cannot keep running from that. I'm so thankful to have people in my life who are living unapologetically. When I think about God, when I think about what God truly represents, I think about people like Jerry. I think about people who are involved in MashUp, who take time out of their day to literally feed people in every sense of the word. At the brunch, they were talking about the impact that MashUp has had. Circulating almost $200,000 on Black-owned businesses in the city, physically giving people money, like rent assistance and different things like that. Putting on creative events like the Holiness Project, talking about how religion and queerness have been weaponized against us to detach us from God. They are doing life-giving, life-affirming work that has personally touched my life. This is a dedication post to MashUp. Again, if you have the funds, please consider donating to the pot. If we all give what we can, whether that's $1, $5, $100, $1,000, $10,000 if you got it like that. Donate to the pot so we can all eat, so that more people can realize their destiny. There was a lot said just now. I took some notes to try and stay on task, but it has just turned into whatever. And that's okay. That's how you know this is real. I started this by saying yesterday was the Virgo blood moon. The symbolism of that. Virgo is about the body, it's about purification, it's about habits. This eclipse was about releasing fragmentation. My last couple of essays have been about releasing fragmentation. You know, I woke up a couple weeks ago and I said, stop calling crumbs nuance. How much of yourself are you willing to abandon just to avoid being alone? And that just created a spiral of just so many thoughts that extended to like romantic relationships, work relationships, the way that I treat my own body, this fragmentation of self. I feel that this season of my life is about being consistent with what I already know to be true. What I already know to be true is that if I ground in my body, if I bridge my mind-body disconnection, then I will become a person who is doing all of these things, who is creating spaces, like continue. Actually, speaking of eclipses, the last time there was a blood moon eclipse around this time, I think it was like late February last year. I sat outside the parking lot of my old apartment with my roommate, and on FaceTime I was with like a couple friends, and we just like wrote about what we desired for our lives. And the days after, my mind just opened and I came up with the idea for Continuum. Or maybe not that I came up with it, but I started being like, no, I like have to do this. It was like a burning sensation in my spirit, in my heart. I have to do this. Continuum, for those who don't have any context, this past October, I put on a multi-sensory experience that centered the divinity of Blackness and queerness. Again, what I wrote about 2 or 3 Octobers before in this painting. It had DJs and art and vendors. It was expansive. It was the physical embodiment of my growth and self-acceptance up to that point. It was the physical embodiment of the community that I've built. I think this Virgo eclipse is not about public facing anything. It's about me consolidating the fragments of my identity. It's about me being consistent and disciplined in showing up and sharing what is going on in this big brain full of thoughts every day. I am here to give language to our collective lament. I am here to share what is going on in my life, to give you, whoever is watching, whoever is listening, the words to describe your own experiences so that you can then go out and positively impact your community. I think that the world wants us to feel isolated, to feel like if we ground in our bodies, if we continue to show up and share what's going on, we will be crazy. No, like we need more people. I also said this in the essay. Jerry said, like, now more than ever, we need to be visible. Now is not the time to hide. Now is not the time to hide. So if you're watching this and you have some idea that you want to share, actually, every morning, or not every morning, most mornings, I try to pull cards for myself. And the cards that I pulled today were storms. What you don't change, you choose. And I wrote to myself, God, reveal to me what I need to change in this season to be my best. I also got the card betrayal. Accepting crumbs for others was a mirror to the way I was breadcrumbing myself. No more. My cup is full. Liberation. My dreams empower me, so I manifest them. Live out loud. I am free to express myself fully. That's really the card that I wanted to reference. But we have a duty to steward this experience well. Nobody in your lineage has ever been this free, has ever been this well resourced. So it is your responsibility, it is my responsibility to steward this experience well, to live out loud, to share what is going on, to help others. And the final card that I pulled was alignment. I am always being guided in the right direction. The liberation, abundance, peace that I desire comes from speaking my truth, choosing well, filling my cup. I have all the ingredients. I simply must act. I don't really know how I want to end this. I guess like tying it all back to the essay that was central to this video. Maybe God isn't something that is outside of you, waiting to judge you. Maybe God is the life force inside of you, waiting for you to finally stop abandoning yourself. Thank you for listening. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I hope that this week you will live out loud, that you will liberate yourself and others by sharing who you are. Until next time, Delania.